Hey guys, sorry about that. Had to take a phone call real quick. So just getting back to this. I was basically saying that I don't like using the stock fans that come with the processor because they don't usually provide adequate cooling, especially when you're looking at overclocking. So yeah, that's basically it. I will just throw that in the box in case, you know, maybe I get a customer that doesn't do any gaming. They have a computer with a Core i5 and maybe the heatsink or fan goes out. It's just a spare part for me. So basically, to install the processor, there's like this little metal tension bar. You have to push down and pull out and pull it back like that, so it you can pull out a little clip cover that holds the processor in, and then what you do is you pull this little plastic placeholder out of the way that helps protect the pins that are inside the socket. And you got to be careful with this part, because if you push down and damage any of these metal pins in here, then you could damage the motherboard, and then you'd be out all the money that you spent on it. So now when you go to seat your processor in place, you'll notice on your processor that I think there's like a little arrow on the corner of it, and you have to line that up with the an arrow here on the socket on your motherboard, so that they're lined up correctly and sitting on the right pins. So I'm going to try to find that arrow on here. Not really. Oh, there it goes. So on this, it actually shows the arrow on the little metal clip that holds your processor down. So I was looking for it on the plastic part of it, but it wasn't there. But when you put this in, you don't have to push down or anything. You don't have to force anything. It should just sit down nice and easy into the socket. So then what you do is put that back in place. There's like a little metal screw, and you put the tongue underneath that screw, and then you push the tensioning arm back into place, and there you have it. It holds your processor in nice and tight. So, alright, so the processor's in. The next step will be to put on the bracket for the cooling system. So now this is going to come with two different brackets. There's an Intel for the LGA 1155, and I think it 11. I know it will be compatible with another socket type for Intel, but it'll also there's a bracket for AMD processors as well. So for those of you doing AMD builds, you can still use this H100i if you're doing a build with like a AM3 Plus socket from AMD. So I think AM3 and AM3 Plus is compatible with this. Let's see. So there's, just trying to look at this here. Okay, so there's like this little thin piece of plastic that sits here, and that's probably to, you know, make it so that there's no like metal touching metal when you put this bracket on the back of your motherboard. And I believe this is it holds on magnetically, and you don't have to worry about that because the magnetics are not going to hurt your board. So what you do have to do though is okay, so if you're using like an LGA 1155, these little knobs here, let me try to zoom in on this. If you could see that, these knobs, you got to push them down. If you're using a LGA 1366, you push them out. So just keep that in mind. So since I'm using the LGA 1155, I'm going to be pressing them in, and then you just lift up the tray here and poke the screw holes through the pre-drilled out holes on your motherboard. And so yeah, you know, maybe it is magnetic, but it's really not staying in there very well. So while I'm holding this here, I'm sorry, let me zoom back out. While I'm holding this, I'm going to take the standoff screws and put them in so it stays in place. And you got to make sure that you're using the correct standoff screws for the processor and the socket type that of the CPU you're using. Otherwise, it won't line up correctly when you go to install the cooling block. So, but they do a really good job in the instruction manual of showing you which ones you need to use. Depending on the socket type of the processor that you're using. So. And for the most part, you should be able to just hand tighten these in. But just get them started so they won't, the screw holes won't slip through on the back side, and that back plate doesn't fall off. And then you can set it down and tighten it up a little bit. That still seems really loose. And I'm just going to double check here. Let me pause this for just a second. Okay, this is James again. Sorry about that. I just wanted to look real quick because it was a little bit uncomfortable for me to see that these weren't really tight. But I don't think they need to be, because once you have the cooling block sitting on top of the processor, and then you put this top bracket right here on to hold it on. And you screw it down, it'll pull up on these, so they don't need to be tight up against the board. So you just want to screw them down as far as they'll go, and it's not going to be like a tight fit, so don't worry about that. Okay, so we got that. I'm going to take out these the top screws that I'll need to secure the top bracket down to the processor, and I'm going to put the rest of this away because it will be no longer needed. Once again, I'm not going to throw that stuff away. I'm definitely going to keep it, because if I ever do if I ever want to upgrade to a different build, and I might need this hardware. So let's see, let me get the box here. You know what? All right, so I'm gonna pause the video because I'm pretty much done with this part. I'm gonna pause the video and put some stuff away so it's not in my way for the rest of the build. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to put the motherboard tray in the case, install some RAM, stuff like that. So I'll be back shortly.